So on to our guest speakers. It is my absolute delight to introduce our first speaker all the way from Charleston, South Carolina, former candidate for State House, my sister. All right, she worked hard. She had probably the most impressive campaign that I saw of any of the campaigns, and I say that truly honestly. Let me introduce our third vice chair of the South Carolina Democratic Party, Michelle Brandt.
Thank you. Good morning, Greenwood.
Good morning.
Greetings from the Low Country. So since I have taken office, I have been all the way from Hilton Head to Oconee County. So I'm known as like the road warrior of the four of us in leadership, but I really try to make an effort to go everywhere I can because this is what you elected me to do, to show up, be visible. So I want to just start off by thanking Bill. Thank you so much for having me today and reaching out to me. I'm more than happy to come back in the future, just to give you some notice. So I wanted to just tell you a little bit about myself. I see some familiar faces from the convention, but a lot of you probably don't know me that well. So my family of origin is a military family. I grew up traveling. I lived in Germany. I lived in Maryland the longest. My father was lieutenant colonel in the Army. He's not dead, he's just retired. He lives in Florida now with my mom. But I'm an Army brat, so that's the experience that I bring watching my father serve this country. And if you would have asked me 5 years ago, 10 years ago, Michelle, would you ever run for office? I would have been like, no, absolutely not, no. I wanted to be a meteorologist, and I ended up becoming an environmental scientist, and now I'm into politics. I went to Towson University in Maryland, near Baltimore, and I majored in environmental science with a minor in meteorology. And I ended up working for the MITRE Corporation shortly after that in McLean, Virginia. That's where I met my husband. And then I became a stay-at-home mom. So you're probably wondering, how does politics intertwine in your life? Well, 2020 changed my life. The pandemic had a major impact on my family, on me and as an individual, on my community, and my city. So when the pandemic happened, the world shut down. I'll never forget March 14th. My son was having his birthday party, and that was the last time that we went out together as a family. Then the world shut down. And then I, as probably many of you thought, I did not like how our president at the time handled the pandemic. I was very just enraged and terrified, to be honest, with how things were handled. I'll never forget saying, like, you could inject yourself with bleach or something, just all the crazy things that came out of that. And then at the local and state level, I was not impressed at all with how the pandemic was handled here in South Carolina. And then you add on top of that the racial uprising. I went into a depression when I witnessed the murder of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. And I remember feeling frustrated. As a mom of two littles, I didn't feel comfortable going out and protesting on the streets with my fellow Americans about all of it because I was worried about getting my children sick. And it was just burning me up inside. I wanted to do something to help. I wanted to make a difference. So after some time, I told my husband, I want to go volunteer downtown Charleston. I went to a food distribution, and that's where I met this man. I don't know his name, but he was homeless. I didn't know he was homeless at the time. But we were passing out food. I went to go pass him eggs, but he declined because he told me he didn't own a refrigerator. And in that moment, it just was my catalyst moment. Just something just clicked in my brain. I want to help people. Why does no one care? This was my city. This was Charleston, South Carolina, on America Street. People don't have refrigerators. I looked into the public housing. People don't have the amenities they even need. So again, I don't know if he was homeless or not, but it was not a good situation, and I wanted to do something about it. So I joined the Charleston Area Justice Ministry, their sister organization. They have one in Columbia and in Greenville, South Carolina. And that organization, just briefly, it's made up of about 41 congregations in the Low Country, and we all get together to do justice work. And when I joined them, I went to my first county council meeting ever in my life. And I got to sit there and I got to see who our elected leaders are. There were only 2 women at the time, now there's only 1. And I was sitting there like, I I know more than some of these people up here. I know more than some of these men. I was like, what's going on? Who are these people? And I had realized I had to deconstruct how I thought of politicians. I put them on a pedestal my entire life, thinking they were just super smart. But I quickly learned that's not true. They're just regular human beings like you and me. So I got the courage to talk to one of them and pick their brain, and they were like, Michelle, if you really want to get involved in politics, why don't you apply for a border commission? And I did. I didn't understand the politics at the time, but the commission I applied for was the most popular one, the Charleston County Parks and Recreation Commission. I ended up getting appointed, and that opened up so many doors in networking for me. I quickly found out later that everyone was shocked I got it because I was going up against some really notable people in Charleston, but I had no idea. I didn't know anything at the time. And so I began networking, and then soon afterwards, I researched who my state house representative was. At the time, it was Lynn Bennett, and if you know anything about her, she's a little cray-cray. She's not good people. So I was looking around wondering, okay, someone's got to run against this woman. I'm a commissioner now. I kind of want to focus on that, get my feet wet. But I couldn't find anyone in my district to run. And I was like, well, shoot. If not me, then who? One of the biggest takeaways for me out of the pandemic and the racial uprising was, we need more people of color, we need more diversity in our leadership, especially we need more women. And so I called a couple legislators. At the time, it was Crystal Matthews and Spencer Wetmore. They're both from the Low Country. And they had small children, and I asked them, can I even do this? I don't know if I can do this. I have kids. What if I actually get elected? What do I do with my kids? And she was like, they both said you can absolutely 100% do it. Don't let the fact that you have small children hinder you. It's actually an asset because I would bring something fresh to the table. So I decided to run for the state house, and I had no idea what I was doing. But I made a lot of friends along the way. I got my first endorsement from Run for Something. They endorse people under the age of 40, and that was just such a huge boost in my confidence. And they gave me the resources and tools I needed to run an effective race. So I had a lot of staffing issues with my campaign. It was really difficult to find people to help me. I did, but it was like pulling teeth to get people to tell me what I needed to do to help me out, make sure that I had the right people around me. So there was a lot of just going off of my instinct and just being in the right place at the right time. But I'm really proud to say that I ran an excellent campaign. I raised over $50,000, which is a lot, thank you, for a first-time candidate in a reddish district and for a black woman and for a woman, period, because they say women don't raise as much as men. Well, I did really well, and some people told me I wasn't going to win, but I didn't let that stop me. I'm like you, Bill, I was ready to win. None of that nonsense, so I'm not going to win. No, I was ready to win, and I brought that fire and energy, and something really magical happened towards the end of the election. So many people started to have hope. So many people. Some of the naysayers had hope. That's what I did. And that was really exciting to me. And so I didn't win, but I didn't lose by that much either. People want me to run again. I will one day. I'm trying to figure that out. But it was really exciting, and I didn't want to just leave politics altogether. I wanted to share all the knowledge that I had gained to help other young people run and win their races. And we got to chip at it one race at a time, 1 year at a time. It's not going to happen overnight, but we just have to stay strong, because if you lose, the next person might not lose by as much. And when we have Democrats run up and down the ballot, that helps the top of the ticket. So there's really a bigger strategy to this, and I believe that we can change South Carolina. We can flip this state blue one day, just like Georgia. Thank you. So then I was asked to be on the nominating committee in Charleston County, and then so that put me out of the running for being a county officer at Charleston County Democrats. And then I was asked to run for third vice chair of the state party, and I was like, huh? What? I have some ideas, but I don't know. But I did look into it, and I was like, you know what? Why not? Just give it a shot. And I worked my butt off. I think being a former candidate for the state house gave me a competitive edge. I'm very competitive, if you didn't know. You don't want to play board games with me or video games, I will take you down. But yes, but I won, and I'm just so excited to be here. Thank y'all for giving me this opportunity to really try to make a difference in South Carolina. And I just want to touch on my platform briefly. So as third vice chair, it's my job to engage the youth of the party. So one of the big things that I'm super passionate about is helping young people run their races, run effective campaigns. So when Crystal Spain told me about her idea of Project Roadmap, I was just over the moon excited. So as you can imagine, I will be serving on the candidate resources subcommittee. But my idea before I even knew about Project Roadmap was to give candidates the resources they need, and I don't mean money, I just mean information. So I have this idea of compiling a list of vendors, small business owners in South Carolina to help candidates run the races. Now this wouldn't be an endorsement by SCDP, not an endorsement, but just a list to get people started, because I called around and asked different people who ran for the State House, the first timers, and they were all like, we either didn't have help or we didn't know who to ask. So I want to change that. I want to make it easier. I wasted so much time trying to find people to help me, and I want to change that. The next thing that I ran on, that I'm working on, is building a collaboration with other third vice chairs and with third-party organizations. So the whole first month that I became third vice chair, I was in Columbia every single week supporting our legislators against the terrible abortion ban that they did ultimately pass. But I was working with the REN Network, I was working with Planned Parenthood, I was there all the time. I met so many young people who were there at the State House. They're just so passionate about what we believe in, bodily autonomy, and so it was amazing to be there. But I've been working with them, I've made connections and contacts with the ACLU, and we're trying to get things moving forward. But I really think that the Democratic Party should be trying to work as much as we can with them too, because we all want the same thing. We all want the same goal at the end of the day. And then also, I have created a coalition of third vice chairs from around the state, so that's been exciting to have a place where we can share ideas and motivate one another. And then the third thing I ran on was education via social media. So I got a little pushback from the leadership. They're just worried about security, so I found a workaround. So just stay tuned for that. But I do want to use social media to educate young people out there about how to run for office, about how to get engaged in our state house politics, how to reach out to your local elected leaders and to understand how bills are passed. So now I just want to update you on what I've been up to since I've been elected. So I told you I was going to the State House the entire month of May, and then after that we had the Young Democrats of South Carolina convention, my first one in attending, and I actually won an award. I got the President's Advocacy Award, which was pretty cool. And thank you. Thank you, so kind. You guys are great. And then I attended the Young Democrats of America convention, which was in Las Vegas, Nevada. And I'm not going to tell you everything that happened, because what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But I met so many incredible young people from across this country. It was so energizing to me to meet all these really passionate people doing incredible things. I served on the platform committee during the Young Democrats of America convention, and we passed over 100 platform amendments. So that was pretty incredible to take part of that. And I got to meet the delegates from DC and Puerto Rico, and they touched my heart. I didn't realize how much of a voting rights issue they were up against. You know, we believe in America, there's no taxation without representation. So what's happening in those areas? I learned that the state of Wyoming brings in less tax revenue and has a lower population than DC. So I'm gonna plan on talking to the Young Democrats of South Carolina and with Crystal and the rest of the leadership about how we can support DC and Puerto Rico, because you know what, at the end of the day, if they get their representatives, that will only benefit us. Everyone knows, yes, thank you, that it's a heavily Democratic area, and so that would give us 2 more senators for the Democrats and another congressperson. So, and they told us, you know, we need your help. We can't do it by ourselves. The elected leaders in DC and the Capitol, they won't listen to us because we don't have representatives. So we really need to step up our support to them. So that's something I'll be working on. And then I met with the British Embassy. Myra and I met with the British Embassy. That was pretty cool. They were just interested in just finding out, besides all the famous, shiny people, who are the people in South Carolina really bringing the change here? And they just wanted to keep in touch with us and have like connections with us. And then Clyburn, he launched his Democracy Now! Initiative in Charleston, South Carolina. So his goal is to work with Democrat congressional candidates to help support them and help them win. And then we have Project Roadmap, which Bill already touched on. So I'll be serving on the Candidate Resources Subcommittee, but that was amazing to be a part of this initiative. I'm so honored to work with Crystal Spain and the rest of the incredibly talented people that were in that room. And then I had our first meeting with my third vice chair coalition. We met at the end of July, and I asked them 3 things that they could do. I said, you know what, we really need to engage our high school students. And so if you could talk with your delegates in your counties and see if they have nieces, nephews, if their sons or daughters have high school students, or your grandchildren are high school students, see if they would be interested in starting a chapter of the high school Democrats in the county or at their schools. And I asked the third vice chairs to kind of take them under their wing and to guide them, because we can create a pipeline of leadership through that way. And then we also, I also asked if they would plan a social event one month and a volunteer event another month to really engage our community, but also to have some fun. The young people want to have fun. So that, and then to utilize the Facebook group that I created as a way of collaboration, and we can just share events and talk about what we're all going through. So our plan is to meet once every other month. So we'll be meeting again at the end of September. And I believe that's all I had for you. So thank you so much for your time, and it's an honor to be here this morning.
Thank you, Michelle. If you could stay and grab a question. Does anybody have a question for Michelle Brandt?
What is the name of your Facebook group that you just mentioned?
It's private, but it's called the Third Vice Chair, with the Third Vice County Chair Coalition.
So it's really not a question, it's a recommendation. Thank you so much for your work. Another group that you might want to tap in that generally is already established is the Democratic clubs or organizations on the college campuses. So
yes.
Usually most college campuses have a Democratic and a Republican group, and if you want to tap into that group, that would give them some leadership as well.
Thank you.
All right, Michelle, thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate you coming down. It's very inspirational. And let me tell you, she absolutely has every right to be proud of the campaign she ran. She knocked on probably more doors than any other candidate in the state. So she certainly was my idol going through this effort.